اوكي نبدأ مع بعض. هنبدأ مع بعض هنرنم. بالصلاة دايما ممكن نقدر نوصل صوتنا لربنا، فعشان كده اخترت الترنيمة دي النهاردة. نصلي مع بعض ونطلب من ربنا يكون جنبنا. حد عارفها؟ هنتعلمها. يلا نبدأ. هيستجيب وعمره ما يسيبك ويغيب، اصبر وهيفرح قلبك، املك في ربنا مش هيخيب. نبدأ نقول مع بعض. احنا عايزين نقول له، عايزين نكلمه كلنا مع بعض. ممكن نبدأ مع بعض تاني؟ 1 2 3. هيستجيب وعمره ما يسيبك ويغيب، اصبر وهيفرح قلبك، املك في ربنا مش هيخيب. وبالصلاة هيوهبك في الدقيقة نجاة، هو اللي جنبك طول عمرك، ولما بتعوزه هتلقاه، ولما بتعوزه هتلقاه. واطمن كله هيبقى تمام، وهيبعت لك في الشدة سلام. ربنا هيعوض أيامك ويحقق لك كل الأحلام. طمن كله هيبقى تمام، وهيبعت لك في الشدة سلام. ربنا هيعوض أيامك ويحقق لك كل الأحلام. هيستجيب وليك معاه خطة وترتيب، ما شئته خير وهيثبت لك، لأنه رب عظيم وعجيب. وفي الضيقات هيعدي بيك كل الأزمات، هيحول الحزن الفرحة، ده يسوع إله المستحيلات، ده يسوع إله المستحيلات. طمن كله هيبقى تمام، وهيبعت لك في الشدة سلام. ربنا هيعوض أيامك ويحقق لك كل الأحلام. طمن كله هيبقى تمام، وهيبعت لك في الشدة سلام. ربنا هيعوض أيامك ويحقق لك كل الأحلام. طيب في ترنيمة تانية أتمنى. أنا اتكالي عليك. انتوا نسيتوا المنهج ولا ايه؟ مش عارفينها برضو؟ أنا اتكالي عليك وبفتخر بيك. مفيش أمل؟ هعلمها لكم برضو. نحاول نقول مع بعض. 1 2 3. أنا اتكالي عليك وبفتخر بيك، ربي يا حنان دايما بلاقيك. مع بعض. أنا اتكالي عليك وبفتخر بيك، ربي يا حنان دايما بلاقيك، بلاقيك قدامي في حزني وألامي، بلاقيك في يأسي تنور ظلامي، بلاقيك قدامي في حزني وألامي، بلاقيك في يأسي تنور ظلامي، أنا اتكالي عليك وبفتخر بيك. ربي يا حنان دايما بلاقيك في ضيقاتي، بتسمع صلاتي وتحارب عدوي وتنجي حياتي، بلاقيك في ضيقاتي، بتسمع صلاتي وتحارب عدوي وتنجي حياتي، أنا اتكالي عليك وبفتخر. ربي يا حنان دايما بلاقيك، أنا اتكالي عليك وبفتخر بيك. ربي يا حنان دايما بلاقيك في طريقي، معيني وصديقي، تبارك خطايا وحبك حقيقي، بلاقيك في طريقي، معيني وصديقي، تبارك خطايا وحبك حقيقي، أنا اتكالي عليك وبفتخر بيك. ربي يا حنان دايما بلاقيك، أنا اتكالي عليك وبفتخر بيك. ربي يا حنان دايما بلاقيك.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, all right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. So today we're going to talk about work-life imbalance, and I did that just to be funny, right? Because it's very hard to balance life and work and your spiritual life and family and all of these things. And so this talk is meant to just discuss ways that we can try to do it all, keep it all together while staying sane and not losing our minds and not yelling at our kids and just keep going day to day. So first, First thing I want to say is I'm not an expert in this at all. If you know me, you know that I'm barely keeping my life together, right? We're all on survival mode sometimes of trying to take care of the kids and do work and take care of the house, make sure everything's clean, make sure there's a home cooked meal made from scratch, right? We're trying to do all of these things, and I'm right along with you. And what I actually really enjoy about giving these talks is I get to learn. I get to learn, how do I find balance in my life? And then we get to learn all together. So I'm by no means an expert. I'm really just learning alongside you all. The other thing I want you to know is I lived in Massachusetts for the majority of my life, and I've never known anything else. And the only way I learn about other countries and other cultures is when I travel. So, for example, when I go to the Caribbean and I'm trying to go, and they're telling me, come on, slow down, enjoy life, right? It's like, oh, wait, you're right. I can slow down. What's the rush? I'm on vacation, So I think one thing about maybe living in America, and maybe especially living in Massachusetts, or the Northeast in general, is that we are very fast-paced. Everything is go, move, you're in my way. Our driving is aggressive. We always want our schedules filled up. And this is something I feel like is very true of Northeast America, but maybe just in America in general. I feel like in other countries, people live to live. They live to enjoy their life and their family. And I feel like sometimes in America, we live to work. That's our main objective. We come here, we work, we make money, and that's our biggest objective. And so I say these things kind of to lay a foundation for the rest of the talk and what we're going to discuss tonight. The other thing that you'll know about me is, maybe because I grew up in Massachusetts, is that I do talk very fast. I don't even realize I'm talking fast until people say, you need to slow down a bit. So if I talk fast during this, please feel free to tell me to stop or slow down. So the first thing is, every time I read the Bible, or I see a sermon, or I listen to a talk, I get motivated. I'm like, okay, yes, I'm going to read the Bible every day. I'm going to read the Agpeya. I'm going to spend more time with the kids, right? You make all these plans in your head, and you spend a lot of time making plans of your head of things you want to accomplish and things that you want to change about your life and your day-to-day. And you spend so much time thinking and making plans and writing things down and making lists, right? We spend a lot of time on that. But I always say the best laid out plans always falls in the face of our schedule. Because you say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to wake up early and I'm just going to start with saying a Thanksgiving prayer. But the next day you wake up, you hit snooze a few times, all of a sudden you're late, you got to get the kids ready, you have to make lunch, right? Because our schedule is so hectic, our schedule is packed, especially if you have small children or even older children. They have responsibilities, you have responsibilities. So our schedule often gets in the way of our best laid plans. We make all of these plans and we have these ideas, and we can't always take it to the next step because of our schedule. So we set all these tasks again, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to read more, all of these things. But again, we're not able to do it because of our busy schedule, because we have so many things already on our to-do list. And our to-do list is long, and every day it gets longer and longer and longer. You make a to-do list, the next thing you add 3-4 things, more 3-4 things, and it seems like nothing is being crossed off, but things keep on getting add on. And before you know it, the hours turn into days, the days into weeks, the weeks into months. And then before you know it, it's a year later. And that goal that you had set out to do of losing weight or reading more or spending time with your family, right? You say, oh man, I never got to it because of XYZ, because work got so busy, because, the kids had sports. I had to do this, I had to do that, right? And so how do we stop it? How do we stop from getting a year later and saying, okay, I never really accomplished what I wanted to do? So this cartoon, you can't really see it, but it says, I know God put me on earth to accomplish a certain number of things, and so I'm so far behind, I'm never going to die. So I know God put me on earth for a purpose, and so for things I need to do, and I haven't done any of it. So there's no way I'm going to die anytime soon because I haven't accomplished what God wants me to, right? So it's meant to be a funny joke that we have all these things that we intend to do and that we want to do, but we never really get a chance to do that. Again, we're a busy, fast-paced society. And again, you have that feeling like there just aren't enough hours in the day. I don't have enough hands. I need a third parent. I need this, I need that to kind of make my day go and go and go. And how am I going to fit this in, right? How am I going to fit all of these things I want to in? And I just want to say, join the club, right? Like, this is a disease, I think, in our society, that we have in our society. Again, especially in areas like this where everything is go, go, go. We're busy and fast-paced. We're often running. One thing I heard in one of the sermons I was listening to, that the devil, the devil's first intent, right, is to make you bad. But if the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. That's the next best thing, right? He'll make you so busy that you don't have time to do anything that you want to do, or that, spiritually, that you want to grow. And actually, I feel like sometimes we even have a sense of pride with our busyness. Like, oh, I'm so busy. I'm going this. I'm doing this activity. I have this. I'm so important at work, right? So sometimes it's even used as a sense of pride that we're so busy and it's like a good thing. But I think stepping away from that mentality that busyness doesn't automatically mean it's not something necessarily to be proud of, or it's not a sense of growth, right? So being busy isn't correlated with your growth as a parent or spiritually or in work, right? And we also have to remember that our most precious commodity is time, right? Time is the one thing that you can't ever create. Like, people will say, like, money is a precious commodity. Sure, it's a precious commodity, but I would say that anyone who wants to make money can make money. Like, I would argue that maybe it's not a great way, maybe it's not a preferred way, but I would say if you're looking for money, if you want to make money, you're going to find a way to make money. But there's no way, no matter how hard you try or what you do, there's no way to create time. And so because of that, it's a really precious commodity. It's something you can never get more of, right? It's something that God has given you as a gift that you can't create. That's it, right? You have your 24 hours in a day and that's it. You don't get that back. You can't create more, and that's it. That's your time. So if you waste your time and you're wasting your day and you're wasting years and years without doing the things that you want to be doing, right? So what you do with your time is really important. What you do with your time will define you and it will define your life, okay? So having said all that, the most natural thing to do would be talk about time management, right? So what is time management? So first, I'm not going to talk about time management, okay? Time management is really just about trying to fit more things into your day. So time management is, I have a list of 10 tasks and I have 3 hours to do it. How am I going to manage my time and fit it all in? And that's not what we're going to talk about today. Because the truth is, you can read books about time management, you can listen to TED Talks about time management, you can go to conferences. There's lots of stuff about time management out there that you can look at to figure out how to manage your day. But that's not what the issue is. I'm arguing time management is not the problem, because we all have time management skills. We can figure out how to squeeze things in the day. So it's not necessarily about squeezing things into the day, it's more about what can we take out of the day, okay? So again, time management is not the issue. What I'm gonna focus on is actually something called time stewardship. So what's the difference? What is time stewardship? So stewardship is the job, it's like the responsibility of supervising and taking care of something. So like if you're like a steward, if someone gives you something, you're a steward of that property or that item, right? So you're responsible, it's your job to take care of that thing. And in this case, we're talking about time. Time is that thing that we're gonna be taking care of. We're stewards of our own time, which again, we said is our most precious commodity. So the Bible references stewardship in the parable of the talents, which we're all familiar with that parable, right? Before I go on to that, time stewardship is discovering how God wants us to use our time and cutting out, like I mentioned, cutting out the things that don't fit into his plan, okay? So the parable of the talents, we all know the story, right? A master entrusted his property to his servants, and he gave them all talents. And then he comes back and says, okay, what did you do with your talents? One person says, I created 5 more, here's what I did. And he's like, good job, I'm so proud of you, right? The other one says, I took those talents and I made 2 more, and he says, excellent, I'm so proud of you, great job. And the third one, he says, what did you do with your talents? And he said, I was afraid, so I hid it in the ground. And he was really disappointed, right? He wasn't happy with what happened, that he didn't do anything with what he was given. And again, it's the same thing. If you think of ourselves as stewards and you think of that gift or that talent as time and what we're doing with it, you think about it in a different way. Like, okay, this really is a gift and I have to do something with it, right? I can't just hide it. I can't just sit on it because I'm afraid to lose it. Or I can't just make all these plans in my head and not execute it, right? So that time, again, is a really important thing. Every minute we have is a gift from God, and we have to learn how to use that time wisely. So again, instead of trying to squeeze more things into it, try to figure out what can we take out. So like, we don't need all the stuff that we're doing necessarily, so kind of going through it and figuring out what we can take out. And the way to do that, there's 3 main principles I'm gonna go over to how to be able to do that, to be stewards of our time. The first one is to be a laser beam. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. But before I explain about the laser beam, I want to ask you guys what you think the secret is to success. What do you think the secret to success is? Huh? It's a secret? Any guesses? Consistency. It's a good guess. Organizing your time. Derek? Including God in your planning. Those are all really good really good responses. So even if you think in a worldly sense, like a basketball player, if you want to be the best basketball player, you want to be the best soccer player, practicing, absolutely, right? But the secret, more than talent, more than practicing, more than consistency, more kind of like consistency, I guess, but more than all of those things, the biggest secret to success is focus, right? Is being a focused person. You're focusing on that mission and that goal, and you're working towards it. So I would argue that the secret to a successful life is focus, right? So let me explain what that means. So before I embarrass myself, do we have any electricians or electrical engineers here? Okay, good. So I won't embarrass myself. So when you look at lights, when you look at these lights in the ceiling, right? What are they doing? They're lighting the room, right? And these lights are using energy and they're using power. And I have no idea how much energy these lights are using because I'm a social worker. I know nothing about electricity, right? Let's assume it's using like 1,000 watts of energy to light this room with these lights. Can you tell me? Tell me, because I don't know. 100? 100? Okay, let's say 100 watts of energy to light this room, right? So you're using all this energy and all this power, and all these light bulbs are doing is lighting this room, which is pretty cool. It's good, right? We need light. It's good. It's not a bad thing that it's lighting the room. But again, it's using all this power and energy. But then when you think about something like a laser beam, it's much smaller. It uses a lot less energy, a lot less power. And think about how powerful it is, right? Think about all the things that we can do with laser beams. We can cut glass. We can fix people's eyes, right? All of these amazing things that we can do with laser. And so the difference is when you have something focused like a laser beam, and you're using all that energy towards that one thing, right? You can have a bigger impact, and it can be a lot more powerful. And it's the same thing with us, right? So a lot of times I find myself checking my email and listening to my child tell a story after school. Like they're telling me about their day and I'm scrolling and checking my email. Or I'm working from home and my kids are home with me and I'm trying to do work and they're trying to talk to me and I'm trying to get dinner ready, right? I'm doing all these things. And for me, what ends up happening is that when I try to do too many things at the same time, I'm not doing any of them really well, right? They're all mediocre at best and maybe even worse, right? You know, I'm not paying attention. My kid's like, you're not listening to me. What does that say to my child? That I don't love them. I make a mistake in something at work. Oh, you're not paying attention to your job, right? So when you're not focused in what you're doing in that task at hand, you end up not doing anything that well, right? So being focused and concentrated is going to be really important in every aspect of our life. Yes, so that's it. So be a laser beam is the first, is the first objective or the first principle. And then just to tie it to spiritual, consider St. Paul. So St. Paul, when we think about everything that he did in his life, and he even says in several verses, he says, you know, I knew my task at hand and I worked towards that mission, right? And think of everything he accomplished, all the places he traveled to, all the letters he wrote that make up so many books in our Bible, right? And he was so focused on that mission, right? And we'll talk about mission in a little bit. But he was so focused on that mission. He was trying to do everything. He used his soul, body, mind, thoughts, writing. He used all of his talents all towards that one mission, right? To serve God. Now, we're not St. Paul, right? This was his mission. This isn't necessarily our mission to be writing letters and traveling and preaching, right? But this is St. Paul, just an example, a perfect example of what focus can do and how much you can accomplish when you're really striving towards that mission. And he just had that one task and that one mission, and he accomplished so much. And some general, I'm not going to go into these very much, but just some general tools for staying focused are things like controlling your emotions. So being aware of where you are, where's your stress level, is your stress at work coming into home, is your stress at home coming into work, right? So basic things like checking your emotions, walking by faith, not by feelings. So remembering that to turn to God, right? So like having your faith, making your plans, but not worrying. You know, there's a difference between making plans and worrying. So are you just worrying, what's gonna happen? How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do that? Or are you having faith and trying to set out your plans as best as you can? Managing your energy, so that means taking breaks, taking time outs, taking time ups, you know, doing recreational activities, things like that. And then regularly reviewing where we stand. And what I mean by that is our mission, which I'm going to get into in the next slide. But reviewing our mission. What is our mission? Am I working towards it still? Do I need to reassess my mission, right? So with that being said, what is our mission? So the next principle is setting and remembering what our mission is. So everyone has something that drives us, right? And every decision that we make is based on that drive. So I'll give you a very simple example from like, probably maybe nothing that's as relevant now, but maybe it was relevant when you were younger in high school. So take someone whose drive is to please other people. They're a people pleaser. They want people to like them. Let's say, like a young female in high school. That's her drive. She wants people to like her. She wants to be popular, right? Every decision that girl makes from the second she wakes up till she sleeps is going to be based on that drive, right? What am I going to wear? How am I going to do my hair? Who am I going to sit next to on the bus? Who am I going to sit next to at lunchtime? What am I going to do during recess? Who am I going to sit next to in the classroom? What am I going to say? How am I going to laugh? Right? Every single decision that person makes throughout the day is going to be based on that drive that she wants to be popular and she wants to please people, right? So our drive really determines what our mission will be. Okay, so like we have to think about what drives us and how that's going to be reflected in our mission. And in this world, again, with the society that we live in, we can either choose what that drive is and what our mission is going to be, or we can let the world choose for us, which honestly is sometimes really hard to distinguish because, again, there's so much happening at once that we lose focus. We lose that drive. We don't know we're just on autopilot sometimes, right? Like we don't even have a drive anymore because we've just go, 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 and you're on autopilot and you're on cruise control and you're going through life, right? You're not really paying attention. And that can be a really dangerous place, right? So it's really important to set a mission, determine what a mission is, set it, and then reevaluate and make sure you're still working towards that mission. And part of that is discovering your purpose and your goals. So the other thing is there's a difference between mission and goals, right? Because some people will say, what's your mission? What's your purpose in life? So if I were to ask you, okay, we're in church, right? We're in St. Rebecca. And I say, what is your mission as a Christian, for example? What is your mission in life? And you might say, okay, my mission is to go to heaven. Okay. If you were to say, my mission is to go to heaven, I would say, then why didn't God just take you to heaven after you were baptized? Is your life only to go to heaven? Is that only your sole purpose, or is there something else, right? Would our God put us here for 80, 90, however long we have on this earth, right? Would he put us here just to say, I want to get you in heaven? I would argue no, because I think that if that was the goal, then God wouldn't leave us here for so long. I mean, it's not that great down here. It's really not. I'd much rather be in heaven, right? We're struggling. I'm trying to parent. I'm trying to do all these things. And our God is a loving God. So I don't think that's the purpose of our role, right? It's not just to get to heaven, because then we would just go right away. He wouldn't leave us down here. So we have to remember that we do have a purpose and we do have a reason for being here, right? Each single one of us. And it could be a general purpose or it could be something very specific, right? And so we have to think about what is that mission for us. And so the mission explains how to achieve a purpose, right? It's like a larger picture of a purpose. And the goal is the objectives that get you to that mission, right? So that leads you there. So if you say, my mission is to drive to Florida, that's your mission, right? That's your overall mission. And my goal is to stop on 5 states along the way and try 5 new foods, right? Those are little goals, but ultimately your goal is still to go to Florida, okay? So that's the difference between a mission and a goal. And many of us will set goals, but we don't have a mission. So we'll say, we want to make money. We want to graduate. I won't say graduate. We want to make money. We want to do this. We want to do that, right? We have all these little goals, but they're all over the place. And ultimately, when you look at them all, they're not working towards one specific mission. They're scattered, right? They're all over the place. There's no theme. There's no topic. And sometimes even Christ is not even at the center of them, which I would argue is a big problem, right? When you have a Christ-centered mission and you have these goals, that's how you work towards success, right? Towards a successful life. Any organization or company, if you want to know what they do, you look at their mission statement. So if you were here a couple of weeks ago, Mina Masiha was here and he was talking about Koinonia Ventures, right? Their mission, right? You go to their website, you see their mission, it's very clear. Empowering opportunity through fellowship, very clear. We provide access to credit and ambitious people who otherwise lack opportunity. We help our business partners succeed through a funding and advisory program that strikes a balance between philanthropy and fiscal responsibility. It's very clear. This is their mission. Meaning every single thing that organization does is going to work towards that mission. Every fundraising event, every marketing event, everything they do is going to lead towards that mission, right? So think of yourself as an organization, okay? You need your mission statement, and then you need your steps that you can be able to work towards that mission statement and support that mission statement, right? It has to be very clear, and the goals have to meet that end. At the end of the day, your mission statement. So we'll play a little game of mission or goal. Okay, graduating college, is that a mission or a goal? Goal, good. Good, because if that's the case, what do you do after you graduate college? Okay, I reached my mission. I'm all done. I'm not going to do anything else, right? That can't be a mission. What about getting married? Mission or goal? Goal. It's a goal. It's definitely a goal. Okay, what about making money? Is that a mission or a goal? A goal? Mission? It could be either one. It could be a mission or a goal. I would caution you, though, if it's your mission, be careful, because, again, it could lead you. If that's all your mission is, think about the goals that are going to get you there, and if that's going to be working towards your overall purpose, right? So, again, sometimes we have a lot of goals, but we need a mission so that our goals can be centered around that purpose, right? It has to be the center of your life. It has to drive you. Yeah? They minimized it, yeah. No, okay, so the question is, can my mission be to raise my children in a Christ-centered life? And I would say absolutely. Absolutely can be your mission. You know, I don't think that should be minimized because, yes, it's a responsibility, but that is a mission, right? It's a responsibility that you have in your life. It's a purpose that you have in your life as a caregiver. And actually, the Bible says that you're responsible for these children. So that is your mission, absolutely. And I don't think that should be something that's minimized because it's a very, very important thing, right? It's a very important thing. It's part of your life. So anyway, to summarize, mission is like the big picture, and then goals are the little stops along the way that get you to the mission, okay? And then again, relating back to what I was just talking about, that oftentimes we set a lot of goals without a mission. So I want to make money. I want to spend time with my family. I want to be close to church. I want to have a social life, right? Again, these goals are all over the place, and you don't really know where you're heading. And sometimes it's not practical to be able to do all of these things and do them well and still have a mission and a purpose, okay? All right. Does anyone have any questions so far before I move to the next one? Yeah. Sure, I can. I don't have it on here, but I can share them with you. Sure, I can do that, yeah. It's a series of sermons that I listened to that were really well done, and then a couple of books that I have that I'll show you guys. So again, sometimes things will need to get cut out, right? So let's say you have your mission, you have your goals, and you see, okay, this goal doesn't really align with my mission, so I'm going to cut this one out, right? And that's how you get, again, stewardship of your time. That's how you take control of your time again, and you have that responsibility of managing your time, or supervising your time, sorry. There are certain things in life, I think, like sometimes we'll set a goal. There are going to be certain things in life that you might not be able to accomplish. Like no matter how hard I try, I will never be a basketball player. I just will not, right? I'm not athletic. I'm not tall. I don't have the focus. I don't have the drive, right? So I think accepting that there are some things that you won't be able to accomplish because it might not be in God's purpose, and that's okay, right? Because again, God has a purpose for you, and you can work towards that purpose. So I think sometimes people say like, oh, you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want. Yes, to an extent, right? To an extent. It has to align with your mission and your values and your drive and your purpose in God's eyes, okay? I'm going to give you one more example, and don't laugh, but stick with me, okay? I have a point here, okay? All right, does anyone know who this is? Tom Brady, okay. Tom Brady used to be the Patriots quarterback. He left us, and we're all very bitter about that. But the reason I bring him up is because, does anyone know how many Super Bowls he won? 1, 2, 5, 7. He won 7 Super Bowls, okay, in his career. So he's won 7 Super Bowls. And the way I bring this up, again, this is kind of like an extreme example, but stick with me, okay? So he's won 7 Super Bowls. And I think especially in the athletic world, what we see, right, is these athletes, and they have a mission. And for example, Tom Brady's mission is, I want to be the best in my sport, and I want to win a Super Bowl. So he won 1 Super Bowl. He won 2 Super Bowls. He won 3 Super Bowls. And every time he got interviewed, they said, how do you feel? What are you going to do next? And he's like, I don't feel done. I need more. I need more. I need more. Okay? So he set this mission. He accomplished this mission not once. He accomplished it 7 times. And then he retired. And then he came back. And then he retired again, right? So I bring this up to say, again, it's a bit of a stretch, but think about it. When you set a mission, that is not centered around your purpose and drive, that's not within God's eyes, right? For your role on this earth, you won't feel satisfied. You're going to want more. You're going to want more and more and more. You're never going to feel satisfied, just like these athletes. How many athletes do we know that succeeded? They were at the top of their career and they retired and they came back. It's quite often that these Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, right? How many of these athletes have retired and come back because, again, they don't feel that sense of accomplishment or that satisfaction despite having achieved their mission? That tells me if you achieve your mission, so like let's bring this down to the real world. If you set a mission for yourself and you achieve that mission and you're still feeling unsatisfied, that tells me that you need a different mission. You need to reassess your mission, right? Let me reassess and reevaluate. What was my mission? How did I get here? And what's making me feel unsatisfied? What am I missing, right? So reevaluating that mission, right? And setting your goals towards God's purpose for you in life. Because so that when you do accomplish them, you feel satisfied, right? And I think that idea of what's my purpose in this world is such a deep question. You know, it's such a hard thing to answer. Like, I don't know what my purpose in this world is. I'm here. I'm doing my best. I'm doing the best I can. I'm living by God's, values and morals and all of these things. But I don't know what my purpose is, and that's okay. You don't have to have something so specific. It can be general thing like, okay, to worship or to provide service, to show love to strangers. Like, it could be these general things that are still considered missions, right? That's why I'm saying, like, raising your kids towards God is a mission. It's 100% a mission, right? It could be these general things. It doesn't have to be something like, my mission was to change the world by XYZ, right? Because I think that's sometimes what we think of when we think of purpose and mission, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be something general. The last principle is distinguishing between what's important and what's urgent, okay? So first, let me ask, how many people here have a to-do list? Some sort of to-do list either in their head or written down, or every morning they write one. Just raise your hand if you have a to-do list. Okay. Now raise your hand if your to-do list is prioritized. Okay, so first there was let's say 30 hands, and then now there's 10, right? So a third of you prioritize your to-do list. I'm one that I do not prioritize. I just write everything down in one big crazy list, and I cross them off as I go. But think about if you were the president of the United States, okay, what would be on your to-do list? Okay, run the country, go to a meeting, pick up milk on the way home, take out the dog, right? So let's say that's your list. You're the president of America, and that's your list. Are all of those things of equal priority? Absolutely not, right? Running the country is not like picking up milk on your way home. And so I think sometimes what we do is when we make our to-do lists, we throw it all on there. We cross off whatever we can do. Sometimes I put things on my to-do list just to cross it off. Okay, yes, okay, yes. Sometimes I put things on my to-do list just to say, I did it, I'm done. And actually, one of the sermons I was listening to, the priest said, I have a friend who would put on her to-do list, go to sleep and wake up, and she would cross it off when she did those things, right? And the reason for that is because first of all, we are slaves to our to-do list, right? We create this to-do list, and we are slaves to it. And whether that to-do list on our phone or on paper or in our head, and we're running it over and over and over, we live by that to-do list. And the problem is that we like to do the easy things. And that's why I add things on there to cross it off to say, I did something. I met a goal. I did it, right? But it's not the same, right? It's not the same. And if we're not prioritizing the to-do list, right, by what's most important to what can wait, then we're setting equal value to everything on that list, and that's just not true. Our list is not going to be all of equal value, right? And what we tend to do is the things that have the most immediate deadline or the most urgent, we'll tend to do first, right? So I'm going to show you guys something that is usually used in the business world. It's called the Franklin Covey time management system, okay? So the way it's broken up, it's by urgent, not urgent, important, not important, right? So they say there are things that are urgent/important. So that would be things like my house is on fire, okay? That's urgent, you got to do it right now, and it's really important, right? And then there are things that are not urgent, but they're important, okay? So something like spending time with my kids. It's really important, right, to spend time with your kids and your family, but it's not urgent. I mean, your kids will be okay if you miss a night without them, or if you're not able to spend time with them. They're not going to explode, right? They're going to be okay. It's not going to be great, but they're going to be okay, right? It's not urgent, but it's very important, right? And then there are things that are not important but urgent. And those are the things like the interruptions, right? So someone says, hey, I need to talk to you really quick. It's it's super urgent, and it ends up being nonsense, right? It's really not important at all. It's just something they took you away. They needed you urgently, right? And it wasn't really important. And then there are things that are not important and not urgent, okay? So those are things like watching TV, doing nothing, scrolling. And I want to be careful here because this doesn't include recreational activities, right? So not important, not urgent doesn't include things like spending time with friends, right? That's a recreation. Going out and doing a hobby, that's a recreation. And those things are actually really important. And so don't confuse not important, not urgent with those activities because, again, those are important things. But these are things like when people take it to extreme, like, oh, I'm so done. I'm just going to sit here and scroll through my phone for 2 hours and then fall asleep, or I'm going to watch TV or whatever it is, right? Because there's a line. There's like downtime, and then there's like an extreme of like, okay, I kind of pushed it too far. So when you look at these, again, this is used for business, but like disregard all of the other deadlines and stuff like that, right? Where would you say is the most ideal category to spend your time in these four? The first one? Urgent, important? Not urgent, not important. I would say where we usually spend our time is urgent, important, or urgent, not important. I would say that's usually where we're spending our time, right? Because things are like what needs to happen now. But I would say the most ideal place to spend your time, where? Not urgent, but important. Yes, not urgent but important. Yes. That's the most ideal place to spend your time. The things that are actually really important. So like we said, not urgent, important, spending time with my kids, that's where you should be, that's the most ideal place to be spending your time, right? Although we do tend to work toward or spend more time in the urgent category, right? And just as another note, if it's really important, then you're not going to let it get to urgent, right? So some of those things that are really important but not urgent will eventually get to urgent. So let's use the example of spending time with your kids. Yes, it's important. It's not urgent. They're going to survive. If you're busy and they don't see you, they're going to be fine, right? The kids are great. Kids are resilient. It's very important, but it's not urgent. But it could get to a point where it becomes urgent. Something might happen. Kids might be acting up. It might be affecting their grades, their behavior, and then it becomes urgent, right? So if it's important, then don't let it get to urgent, okay? So that's the biggest point here. So just to sum up time stewardship, be a laser beam, stay focused, be a laser beam. Set and remember your mission, and I would add to that, reassess your mission every once in a while. Reassess your mission, especially if you're not feeling your goals are working towards that, or if you feel like you're coming close to your mission, reevaluate pretty regularly, and distinguish between urgent and important, okay? A couple of other things I'm going to tell you guys, I'm almost done, is I really wanted to use the story of Mary and Martha in this lecture because I love that story. I think it's a really lovely story in the Bible, and it's just a lovely reminder of being present and being with God. And so I wasn't sure how I wanted to incorporate it other than just telling the story, so I asked AI on Google how it's relevant. And it actually did a really nice, it actually summarized most of the things that we've talked about, which was really good for me. So it says, I just typed in, what can we take away from the story of Mary and Martha, right? Like, what are the big takeaways from that story? And the first one, it said prioritization, right? So it's often used to discuss the importance of prioritizing your time, not getting distracted by tasks, right? Faith, so the importance of faith in your life. Refocusing, again, we talked about focus in the laser beam. Choosing the better part, so choosing the things that are important. And family, right? Because again, family is a super important part of our life, right? And there's a lot of verses in the Bible that we say that remind us of that too. And I was like, should I open up with, God, created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested, or, at the end of our readings during liturgy, we say, do not love the world or the things that are in the world. It's like all of these verses are general reminders that we hear all the time that we don't really stop because we hear them so often. But like when you stop and think about it, it's all reflecting these ideals, right, of being stewards of our time. And the last thing I just want to say is this idea of work-life balance is not real. It's a myth. Like there is no work-life balance. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, I wouldn't even call it a balance. I would actually call it more of like a rhythm. Like you get into like a rhythm of just figuring out how to do everything at once. But the other reason for that is like work, I don't see as separate than your life. Like work is very much a big part of your life. And so when I actually think about the biggest part of my life, like when you think about my life, I kind of narrow it down to these four things, right? You have work, you have faith, you have family, and you have your relationships. So that's like your friends, your social life, all of those other things. And one of the books I read, I'll show it to you, is a really lovely book about this man who's actually Christian but not Orthodox. And he writes about burnout, but he talks about how these 4 parts of your life are like 4 balls, okay? And you're always juggling those balls, yeah. But 2 of those balls are made out of rubber and 2 of them are made out of glass, right? So if you think about work, relationships are made out of rubber, you can juggle it, you can bounce it up and down. Actually, I brought a ball so I can be visual. Okay, let's see. So I brought a ball. So let's say this is work, right? Or this is relationships. You're bouncing it. It's going to come back to you. Even if I throw it, it's going to come back. If it rolls away, someone's going to kick it back to me, right? It's going to be fine. But I can juggle it because I know that the consequences of juggling rubber is going to be fine. But I would say that family and faith, I would say those things are made out of glass. And I wouldn't juggle with glass. One, because I can't juggle. And I would absolutely break it. But thank you. Thanks. See, it came back to me. But also because if glass drops, one, it's going to make a big mess. It's going to break. That would be very heartbreaking. And sure, you can argue maybe I can put it together. I'll put it back together. And you probably can, just like family and faith, right? Sometimes you stray away and it breaks and you could put it back together. But it takes longer and it's a lot harder. And it might not be the same, right? So you can try to put it back together, but it might not look the same or work the same as it did before. So just a closing reminder that you can juggle all of the other things, but just remembering that faith and family are the most important, right? Like those are the things in your life that you really can't risk juggling and breaking those things. You really have to hold tight to them and treat them as precious things that we have. Yes, and don't let the important things become urgent. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or anything that they want to share in their experiences of trying to manage everything at once? Because again, we're learning all together. Like I'm not an expert at all. These are all things I learned from other people. I'll show you the 2 books I brought as well. So the one I was telling you before about burnout, it's called Suffering from Burnout, Give Them the Finger. Finger, it's not a bad word. FINGER actually stands for different things like fun, important. I don't remember what the other ones were, but it's a great book. And he actually is Christian and references a lot of Bible stories and verses in his book. It's a really lovely book and it's an easy read. And the other one I have is Having a Mary Heart in a Martha World, which I feel like is very relevant to us. Like, again, I wanted to incorporate Mary and Martha some way in this lecture because, again, it just reminds us that there's always going to be things to do, but if Christ is in our center, then that's the most important thing. Any questions or thoughts? Yeah. Stress management, prayer. I think stress management can be its own workshop, honestly. Just like coping skills, what are you doing, helping one another. The other thing that we didn't get to really talk about, especially in parenting, and maybe this can be a separate lecture, is that sometimes in a relationship there's a default parent. So there's one parent who kind of manages a lot of the things like the emotional burden, the logistical burden of signing kids up for sports or activities or making decisions or picking out outfits or doing the clothes shopping, and that is a burden, right? So being aware of your partner, what's your partner doing, can you help? But I think stress and coping could be a whole separate lecture, but doing things like asking for help if you need it, taking your breaks, I don't know what else, but do you have any ideas? Oh, okay, all right. Anybody else have any ideas or questions? No? Okay, all right, great. Eveline, we're done. Thank you, guys. Where's Eveline? We're going to do the raffle now, I think, but... Oh, here it is. Should we do it? Yeah, get her. I don't know. Are we doing it? No, she's coming.
مخصوم منك النهارده. ثانك يو تينا، ربنا يعوضك. الاسماء الرفر الاول
5306.
ماريو.
5328.
وعيد ميلادك؟ لا ده كتير علينا ده. لا كده كتير.
Can you read it? No.
No.
ولا ياخد هدية بلاش.
Can you read it? Can you read it? The winner?
No, I think she's there. You go.
5317.
5317 مين؟ 5317
Over here. Over here.
ماري.
Huh? What?
عيد ميلاد شهر 8 عشان
Okay.
هنقول الاسماء، لو حد ما كانش اسمه يقول لنا ماشي. نرمين السايح هنا ولا لا؟ جوزها، خدي جوزها. يس. أميرة فارس. في أميرة فارس؟ أوكي. صفوت جندي ما جاش. نيرة قديس. نيرة فين؟ جوزها موجود فين؟ مشى ولا موجود ولا فين؟ طب خلي الهدية بتاعته ما فيش مشكلة ماشي. ميرفت استافرو. ميرفت استافرو. عماد اسكندر. ماريو عبد المسيح. حسام طيب. مريان بخيت. مريان بخيت. فيش؟ ازاي مريان بخيت موجودة؟ مريان بخيت يا شباب. طب في أي حاجة بخيت غير مريان؟ كنت لخبطين في الاسم؟ حماية. إريني عوض. إريني عوض. أوكي. ماركو مليكة. ماركو مليكة فينكم راح فين؟ مارك سعد. تريزا البياضي. أمجد عبد الله. أمجد فين أمجد؟ حضرتك؟ إيه ده بجد مش أنت؟ أنا فكرت أنت. أمجد أنت أمجد يس يا بس أنا اتلخبطت بقول أمجد عبد الله زي عبد الله يا عبد الله. أنا فكر أمجد ده شكلت اتلخبطت. مايكل إبراهيم. أستاذ مايكل راح فين؟ ده هو اللي عامل لي الأسماء. فين أستاذ مايكل؟ طيب في ماري بس أنا مش عارفاها ماري إيه. حد ماري عيد ميلاده شهر 8 وشهر 9؟ إيه ده بجد؟ أوكي ماري أنت عيد ميلادك الشهر ده؟ طيب يس. وفاء بجد؟ إزاي وفاء؟ أنت يا بنتي مش أنت حاطة أسماء ما حطيتش اسمك ليه؟ اللي بيساعدوني بيوقعوا اسمائهم اعمل لهم ايه؟ هند. هند ماشي دي اول واحده. ازاي ما كتبتكيش؟ انت اول اسم كنت كاتباه. حسام طيب يا حبيبتي. ده يا بنتي انا كنت اول اسم اتلخبطت عشان انت كنت بس خلاص انا مش فاضيه مش فاضيه ثواني بس خلاص كده. هند ناشد. نرمين الساعة. أميرة فارس خلاص. حد عيد ميلاده ما قلتش اسمه يا جماعة ساعدوني. حد عيد ميلاده ما قلتش اسمه. عيد ميلادك امتى؟ 6 و7 يس. مين تاني؟ طب يا سلام دي يعني أول واحدة تهزر؟ دي أول واحدة يس. طيب دلوقتي عايزين نرحب بالناس الجديده اللي جت. في ناس لسه جايه من مصر النهارده نازله من الطياره النهارده. عايزين نقول لهم اهلا وسهلا ونوروا الكنيسه ونوروا البلد كلها. يس لا ما ريحوش يا حبايبي. الحمد لله على السلامة. طب نتعرف بيكم بقى.
سارة.
سارة ايه؟
سارة يوحنا.
سارة يوحنا بنت اخت اختي على فكرة. لسه جاية النهارده.
فادي.
اهلا وسهلا بيكي فادي. اهلا وسهلا بيكي سارة. وميري برضه أول مرة تيجي؟ صح؟ حد تاني هنا أول مرة يجوا؟ انتوا جايين قبل كده صح؟
جايه في نفس الطياره.
نورونا. عايزكم تيجوا على طول. طيب في حد من ناسينه اخر كلام؟ اوكي. في حاجه عايزه اقولها لكم. الاول انتوا عارفين احنا كلنا يعني كنيستنا كلها اهل خير، كلنا خير. في بانكوت معمول الحد الجاي عشان الاورفنز بتاعت مصر اللي هم الناس الملاجئ بتاعت الكوبتك الملاجئ، على شرف الدكتور مينا. انتوا عارفين الدكتور مينا قبل كده كلمه. فيا ريت لو حد عايز يشترك، انا هنزل اللينك على الجروب. اللي عايز يشترك هو الحد الجاي. الكبار ب $100 الاشتراك، والاطفال ب 60. هتقضوا وقت كويس، هيبقى في الشيراتون. هتقضوا وقت كويس ومنها برضو تبرع للناس. خلاص. حاجه تانية عايزه اقولها لكم برضو، احنا كلنا هنا عيله واحده، كنيستنا كلنا فاميلي واحد. لو حد فينا تعبان يبقى كلنا تعبانين. ففي طفل تعبان عايزين نصلي له من قلبنا كل يوم، ما ننساهوش خالص، حالته صعبه شويه. وفي صلاه معموله النهارده من 8 ل 9 في المين تشيرش، فلو سمحتوا نصلي له من قلبنا. يا ريت كلنا نتجمع نصلي. ولو قدرتوا في صلاه هتتعمل كل يوم الساعه 9 بالليل، كل واحد في بيته. صلاه الساعه 12 هنقف نصليها. الولد اسمه رافي، فعشان خاطر ربنا لازم نصلي. وانا واحده من الناس اللي كانت فانا عشان حاسه بظروفهم وحاسه باللي حاصل معاهم، وانا حاسه بالظبط نفس الحكايه. صلاه الناس اللي هنا والمصليات اللي بتتعمل الحمد لله بتتم بالسلامه. فنشكر ربنا، يعني نصلي لبعض. وده اولى بالصلاه، كلنا نصلي، احنا كلنا عيله واحده. خلاص. يلا ربنا معاكم ونصلي. وعايزين نعزي مرقس، جده مات النهارده. باقي في حياتك حبيبي، باقي في حياتك.
اتفضل صلي. أخيرا يا رب وليس آخرا، اجعلنا مستحقين أن نقول بالشكر يا بان الذي في السماوات، قدس اسمك، ليأتي ملكوتك، تكن مشيئتك كما في السماء كذلك على الأرض. خبزنا الذي الغد أعطينا اليوم، واغفر لنا ذنوبنا كما نغفر نحن أيضا لمن يسيء إلينا، ولا تدخلنا في تجربة لكن نجينا من الشرير بالمسيح يسوع ربنا، أن لك الملك والقوة والمجد للأبد آمين. شكرا يا ابني. ثانك يو. هقفل لك الميكروفون. صح ولا لا؟
ايوه مش ده عجيب جدا
بس عشان تريحش ابوك. ها؟ ما شفت صدقني مره واحده لما نزلت ندمت، كنت حتى قاعد ما قعدتش.